So you've been spiritual for a decade and your material life still runs on the same programming you inherited from people who were afraid. So the magic triangle is the next 3 years asking you directly without apology, are you actually going to do something with what you know? The last time 3 outer planets aligned like this, the world changed and most people just adapted without choosing. From 2025 right up until November 2028, we are alive for the most harmonious outer planet aspect configuration of, modern times. And the question is whether you're going to sleepwalk through it. Ask yourself whether you chose every system that now controls your life. Did you? Well, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto are spending 4 years in perfect harmony, and the only question that matters is whether you're going to make conscious choices this time. So hey everyone, and welcome to part 1 of this 3-part special on the magic triangle that's involving Uranus, Neptune, Pluto in a Minor Grand Trine 2026 to 2028. It's actually been going on from 2025, but yeah. And if you're wondering what a Minor Grand Trine is and how it affects you and why you should listen to this, then just give me a few more seconds. So I'm Imani, your holistic astrological life coach. And yeah, let's go. So the magic triangle, Minor Grand Trine. Well, over the past decade or so, we have seen the spiritual but not religious crowd spending the last, decade or so meditating, journaling, doing plant medicine and finding direct mystical experience. Beautiful, necessary and completely ungrounded. Vision without form, we've seen a lot of it. Transcendence, going beyond material reality as an escape from reality instead of transforming actual reality, right? The magic triangle says it's time to land. So your spiritual practice has to recognize and reorganize how you eat, work, earn, live, relate, or it's just performance. The clouds are touching the ground, the mystic who gardens. This is what this, magic triangle vibe is all about. So Neptune in Pisces offers a collective vision, what we're building together, not escaping towards separately. And Uranus in Taurus demands material, innovation, newness, change, such as decentralized food, energy, currency, and personal freedom, built in the dirt, not on concepts. And Pluto in Capricorn transforms power structures, which systems will die, which will last, and endure, and who decides what stays and goes. And we're seeing a lot of changes in our government, in how we relate to each other. We're getting more divisive. We're seeing all the effects of this from 2025. So all 3 of these energies, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, are working together 2026 to 2028. And the major Sabian symbol, the AV, are lost in the clouds. And I'm going to talk to you, this is in depth, about all these Sabian symbology. But the AVA are lost in the clouds is showing that we can land in a revolutionary garden. But landing isn't optional anymore, it's the teaching. We have to follow through on our plans, right? And we have to do what we need to do to bring about the changes in the world, beyond the spiritual memes, beyond the activist memes. We have to think about, for one, equality. We have to do it day to day in our individual life. Also, the triangle gives us all the energy to make these changes, but it can also activate as dystopia. So, material innovation, weaponized technology and all of that, tech bros building surveillance capitalism whilst meditating, green capitalism extracting whilst claiming sustainability, disruption, consolidating power under new management, spiritual vision corrupted, mass delusion, dangerous ideologies, cults using mystical language to consolidate control, which we've seen a lot of spiritual teachings over the past decades has been, used to sort of cult, and to cult in a cult-like way, that's the one, right? So we've also seen a lot of spiritual bypassing at a collective scale, such as we are all one, while systems cross us, right? Structural transformation serving death, old systems failing, replaced by even worse systems. We've seen that, right? You know, new governments have come in promising us this and that, and we fall for it because as a human myself, I know that we want the right thing, but because it can take time to do the right thing, and you know, we're all busy with our jobs, and then we get, you know, we want to chill out and socialize, that we can talk a good game, but we fail to do it, right? But this magic triangle is there for you as an individual and us as a collective to build a world that we say that we want. Otherwise, we will keep on seeing structure transformation serving death, you know, while the old systems are falling, which are replaced by even worse systems. You know, we're seeing a lot of kind of madness in governments, authoritative control, you know, revolutions being co-opted by the same power that we were fighting against, you know, which a lot of what happens to a lot of activist causes start out fine, right? And then it's just the same poo, different day, right? So, you know, because change without consciousness and actual day-to-day action, getting back up after each fall, you know, actually making someone, checking yourself and being aware of all the things that you're putting out in the world, is just rearranging the same old violence under new aesthetics, right? And because harmonious aspects make corruption smooth, this magic triangle has two sextiles and a trine, so these are easy aspects, right? So corruption can seem smooth, seductive and invisible as well. So, you know, we have to be aware of this over the next 3 years, that we don't just walk into a dictatorship dressed up as change, right? The ease of trines means transformations happens whether you're awake or not. What determines which vision manifests, such as collective consciousness and equal rights and justice for all, are millions of individual choices, right? Your activation matters, not because you single-handedly sift the outcome, but because your choices are in the data field, right? Your transformation ripples. The triangle offers both possibilities, and it doesn't force either. Your choice determines which, because trines flow whether you're conscious or not. That's the danger, you know. As I said, the magic triangle is a minor grand trine, and it's one trine and two sextiles, and you know, material systems can reorganize, power structures will transform, and we've been seeing that. Spiritual movements will emerge to counter that, what they're going to say, the spiritual bypassing ones, and these them in turn are going to be even worse. So we have to be careful of what we're signing up for over the next 3 years, right? Because we can sleepwalk through the entire thing and think about the ways that we have adapted to smartphones, social media, surveillance, capitalism, you know, lots of our CCTV cameras, you know, recording us, you know, each one has been revolutionary. Yes, crime has been solved, you know, more crimes have been solved, which created more crimes. People have become more elaborate, right? And each one of these smartphones, social media has changed how we live on a day-to-day level, right? But did you choose any of it? Did we actually individually choose this, or did it just happen to us, right? Really question that. And this triangle offers activation, innovation, grounded vision, vision directing transformation, and transformation serving life rather than death. But the activation isn't automatic, because set styles need knocking. You know, you have to knock on the door, take the energy, you have to choose. And the magic triangle in July 2026, you know, all aspects go exact within 11 days between Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. Then we have multiple passes of the same energy through 2027 and 2028, each going deeper, each asking, are you building what you think you should, or what your body says yes to when nobody's watching, right? It's a once in a lifetime. Use it or watch it pass, right? So if you just wanted, the 10-minute version, that was it. But if you want to go into the layers where I talk about what it means for your sun, moon and rising sign, what wound it's going to transform, what we may see changing in systems over the next 3 years, then keep on listening on, right? So the most important thing to remember over the course of these 3 episodes is that the magic triangle isn't 3 separate transits. It's one teaching expressed through 3 aspects working together at the same time simultaneously. That's the power and the danger of it all. Power, because all 3 outer planets, Pluto, Neptune and Uranus, are supporting each other, and this creates a once-in-a-century potential for us to integrate the material and spiritual aspects of our life, right? Our mind, body and soul. But the danger, because the ease of this configuration, because we have 1 trine and 2 sextiles, and all of these are harmonious aspects, right? So this can breed complacency. We don't use it. We don't take the opportunity to change the things in our life it's calling for us to change. And harmonious aspects doesn't mean passive, but it means potential is available, but the activation is optional. How you use this energy is optional. So we have Uranus making a trine to Pluto, Neptune making a sextile to Pluto, and Neptune making a sextile to Uranus, because Neptune's in the middle of all of this, right? And we have 5 to 6 exact passes of these exact times of the exact sextiles over the next 6 years, right? So basically what this means is that this triangle doesn't announce itself through an astrological newsletter. It announces itself through our nervous system, just feeling like something has fundamentally changed in us, but we have to question it. Why do I feel this way? Why am I paying attention to this idea or that idea? Why don't I want to be in that relationship anymore? Why do I listen to this information and not that information? We have to question it, because sometimes our body can know this energy before our mind catches up. Our gut can drop when we're about to choose from borrowed programming, because this energy wants us to give up, the parts of us that's not authentic, the parts of us that our parents told us to be or society told us to be, and actually find out who we really want to be, right? So we can feel it in our jaw, which clenches when our vision tries to float without landing in matter. So when we become ungrounded, we can feel that tension. We can also feel it in our solar plexus when it contracts, when power moves without spiritual alignment, when we misuse money, status and any other kind of controlling others and stuff without thinking about the spirituality behind it all. Is it right to hurt others for our own personal gain? And that answer is always no. So the magic triangle has Uranus in Taurus. This is earth, innovation, material change. We have Neptune in Pisces, which is water, vision, letting go spiritually, and Pluto in Capricorn, which is earth, power and structural transformation. So we have these 3 planets forming a geometric triangle in the sky, 120 degrees trine between Uranus and Pluto, Earth to Earth, natural flow, 60 degrees sextile from Neptune to both, bridging the gap between Earth and water. But we have to as I said, activate this energy, use it, by thinking about what we want from life, who we authentically are, thinking about how we communicate and relate to ourselves and others, and changing the things that we need to change. And Pluto's role in this is wanting us to transform and to end things, to compost things, to recycle habits into new habits, right? And we have Neptune at the 8th in the midpoint, the top, the climax of this energy. So that's the mystic connecting the revolutionary, which is Uranus, and the transformer, which is Pluto, and it won't repeat again in over 100 years, this magic triangle, and you're alive for it from 2025 to 2028. So what you do with it determines whether you're the same person in 2029 or whether you stay the same, you know. So do you stay the same or use these years from 2025 to 2028 to transform you? So 2025 has already happened, and now we are going to go through 2026 and 2027 and 2028, where all these aspects meet up to, 14 times as well. They have multiple passes through 2027 and 2028, kicking off in July 2026, and each of these exact meeting times get deeper, and each of them are asking us, are you building what you think you should want or what your body says yes to when nobody's watching? So, Uranus in Taurus wants us to change our practical day-to-day habits and use spiritual vision and awareness, or psychological and emotional awareness, to do so, and to use the grounding energy of Pluto in Capricorn to bring about these changes, right? So that's vision, directing power, death, endings, serving new beginnings. Or we can choose to innovate, to make changes, forgetting about the psychological, spiritual and emotional aspects of our life, being ungrounded and weaponizing our power, or letting others weaponize their power against us. So basically the magic triangle is giving us, a chance to move forward with the things that we say we want to move forward to within our life. So guys, you may be asking, what the hell is a magic triangle? Is it something from the Wizard of Oz or some sort of anime cartoon or something like that? Well, imagine you have 3 very slow moving giant friends. Their names are Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. These are the biggest, slowest planets. They take decades to cross the sky and ages to cross into different signs, astrologically even. So not like the moon, which moves through the whole entire zodiac in like a month, or even Jupiter that does 1 sign per year. Uranus takes 84 years to circle the sun, Neptune takes around 165 years, and Pluto takes around 248 years. So when these 3 move, civilizations shift, the change, So each friend, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, lives in a different neighborhood. So the Uranus squad lives in Taurus, the Bull's field, gardens, nature, all of that. It's green, it's fertile, earthy, stubborn and material. And that's where Uranus is in. Vedic astrology, Sidereal astrology, which all the videos I do are based on right now. And Neptune lives in Pisces right now. So it's the ocean, deep, dreamy, water, boundless, mystical. But Pisces is also where our dissonance live, and our toxic relationships are secrets, the way we are imprisoned and the way we imprison others. And Pluto is living in the zone of Capricorn right now, the mountain, serious, powerful, structured, authoritative and long-lasting, right, enduring. And that's 10th house. Neptune in Pisces, 12th house, Uranus in Taurus' 2nd house stuff, right? So normally these 3 are scattered all across the sky and can't easily talk to each other because the 2 far apart on different wavelengths, right? But between 2025 and 2028, something rare happens. All 3 move to positions where they can see and talk to the other 2 at the exact same time, swimming in and out of exact orb with each other. So you may be asking, what is a trine? So think of it like 2 friends who live exactly 120 steps apart in a big circle at 120 degrees apart. They're in perfect, easy, harmonious flow, like 2 musicians who just click. No effort, pure harmony. Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn are both air signs 120 degrees apart. So this is a nice Earth trine Earth energy, which allows for material changes, so changes in your day-to-day actions and habits, how you look after your mental health, psychological health, spiritual health, physical health, financial health, right? You can make changes easily here, because this energy is allowing us to flow naturally with these sort of like routine changes, and we can build new habits, new plans on the runes of our old habits and the old structures, the habits that we didn't choose. Like I said in the very beginning, did you choose the systems and daily habits in your life, or have you just accepted this is what you should do and gone along with it? So what is a sextile? So these are aspects when they're 60 degrees apart from each other. They're still harmonious, still in balance, still vibing with each other, but more like two friends who have to knock on the door first. Easy connection available if you reach for it. And Uranus and Neptune is 60 degrees apart sextile, and Neptune and Pluto is 60 degrees apart, so also sextile. So the connection is there, but it won't activate itself. You have to choose. So they make a sort of like triangle shape in the sky, and Neptune is at the top, the peak of it's the climax energy of the triangle. So this is the water, because Neptune's in Pisces, bridging, uniting the earth energy, but we have to activate it, right? The Neptune energy, but the earth energy, Uranus and Pluto, flows more naturally. So why is it called a grand trine? Well, a full grand trine is when three planets are 120 degrees from each other, forming a perfect equilateral triangle, and this is very rare. It doesn't really happen a lot, but it does happen, the grand trine. But anyway, the minor grand trine is even rarer. One planet is the bridge between the other two. So in this, as I said, we've got one planet trining each other. So in this, we've got Uranus and Pluto trining each other, and two sextiles. So Neptune is the bridge between Pluto and Uranus, right? So André Barbault, a French astrologer, spent his career studying outer planet cycles across centuries of history, and he wrote that this magic triangle, which started 2025 to 2028, with Neptune exactly at the midpoint between Uranus and Pluto, is the most harmonious outer planet configuration of the entire 20th to 21st century. So this is not his opinion, it's his research. He researched historical cycles, and so this magic triangle doesn't happen often. And this is why we call it the magic triangle, and you're here for it. So yay, I'm going to tell you all how to activate it when I give you, sign to sign guidance. But first I'm going to give you the dates, and then I'm going to talk about the wound, and then I'm going to give you all your individual zodiac guidance. So yeah, but ultimately, 2026 is the major changing point, and we're seeing a lot of craziness, a lot of wars, a lot of things that 10 years ago we wouldn't have thought would have happened, a lot of civil unrest, a lot of division, a lot of hate, basically, going across a lot of countries, right? So here we have to make a conscious choice about who we want to be, right? And there's a saying, right, evil persists in the world because a few good people stand about and do nothing. Well, not people, it was men in the original, but I've updated it. So we have to all make a choice to, decide what we stand for, right? So Uranus, Neptune and Pluto are planets that we've only been able to see for about, the last 250 years, because they're not visible to the naked eye. We need a telescope, and these are the spiritual planets, the generational, impersonal, non-material, intangible planets, right? That shift us, change us collectively. They rule mass consciousness, societies, cultures, processes, cycles, and when they move, generations move, right? So the changes that we're going to see this year, what we have seen this year, are going to persist for at least the next decade, and if not more. So we're seeing a lot of war, cost of living crisis, droughts, right, division, a lot of political reform and unrest, in an increase in technology, a lot of fear about, AI, deep fakes and all of that. And we have a lot to be scared of, because literally, I read an article where people were blackmailing head teachers, accusing them, putting their pictures in inappropriate photos with children. So it's a lot of blackmailing, a lot of where technology and what we're seeing with our eyes before was, before the saying was seeing is believing, but it's not no more, because can we actually believe what we are seeing with our own eyes? Because we've got AI and everything manipulating. So it's like a whole new world, like Ariel sings, right, in the Disney cartoon. And, not to play it off, but, we have to basically become so aware, critical think, not just think that everything we see in social media, what we see is the truth, but how not to get paranoid when we have to be hyper vigilant, right? That is the question. The only way we can do that is we fact check everything if we commit to our own individual development, and not in a capitalist way, not in I don't care about you Jack way, right? But in a way that we who can make a conscious choice to do all we can to make sure that, ethics are in these technologies, and ethics are in the world, in terms of how government and systems are sort of like run, right? So Uranus represents change, higher awareness, flashes of insight, freedom, originality, ingenuity, genius, revolution, rebellion, and democracy. Uranus's changes are sudden, exciting, unexpected, sporadic, right, unorthodox, breaking traditions, futuristic, all about how we can move forward, eccentric, erratic, right? Uranus rules humanitarian and progressive ideas, technology, air travel, scientific discoveries, electricity, alternative energy sources, and astrology itself, the lightning bolt, the awakener, the revolutionary who says this system is obsolete, it's crap, burn it down, build something different, right? And Neptune represents spirituality, religion, idealism, empathy, dreams, illusions, fantasy and magic. It's subtle energy, ethereal, strange, confusing, deceptive, intriguing, vague, Neptune rules mirrors, film, entertainment, celebrity, scandal, gases, drugs, prison, illness, secrets, things we keep hidden, infection, hospitals, altered states of consciousness, addiction, hypnotism, socialism, welfare, communism. It's the mystic energy, the dissolver, the visionary who says boundaries are illusion, we are all one, transcend the material, right? And we've seen a lot of that in the world, and I'll go into that deeper in a while. Pluto represents power, intensity, crisis, transformation, regeneration, death and rebirth, extreme, ruthless, obsessive, compulsive, secretive, right? It's a dark, hidden, sinister energy, and Pluto rules the masses. It's 8th house, secret, deaths, other people's resources, taboos, things we keep hidden, our kinks, evolution, genetics, mutation, nuclear energy, race, personal mastery, wealth, big business, global organizations, surgery, detective work, taboos, as I said, dictators, murder and genocide. Pluto is the transformer in astrology, the compass pile. It burns down things, takes things sometimes that we don't want to be taken, so we can enter the death, rebirth cycle that Pluto's all about, the cycle that says this must die for something else to live and be born, right? And why outer planets matter? Well, as I said, they're generational because they move so slowly. These aren't personal, they're collective. They shape how entire generations relate to revolution, which is all Uranus energy, right? How we relate to vision, Neptune, and power, represented by Pluto. When all three align in a harmonious aspect, which has been going on since 2025 and will continue deep into 2028, right? In this magic triangle, right? The collective, has access to integrated transformation, right? When they are in hard aspects such as square opposition, then we have like collective fractures and fights, revolution, fights vision, power opposes awakening, and, we enter crisis and breakdown. And currently, we are experiencing a crisis and breakdown, but there is hope. So 2026 to 2028 is different with this magic triangle energy, bringing harmony and flow. The revolutionary Uranus and the transformer Pluto are in trine, Earth to Earth, working together naturally. The mystic Neptune bridges both with sextiles, offering vision to guide the material revolution and spiritual truth to align the power transformation, right, if you activate it, right? So you may be asking why this matters. What is a magic triangle? Why are you talking about this, Imani, right? Well, it's a once in a century alignment, right? It's not happening again in your lifetime, where Uranus in Taurus, which represents, changes in the material and money, wealth, values, is meeting spiritual vision, which is Neptune in Pisces, which is meeting structural transformation, which is Pluto in Capricorn. So this is earth water harmony, innovation, newness, grounding, transcendence, going beyond, right? Which is kind of a paradoxical thing, right? Newness, going beyond, being grounded at the same time. So it's vision, directing power, death, serving, emergence, rebirth, right? And Uranus in Taurus, which represents revolutionary changes in how we relate to the material world, not revolutionary escaping matter and the practicality of day-to-day life, right? That would be, Uranus in the air or fire sign. Revolution through matter, changes through practical day-to-day habits, right? Through paying the bills, earning the money to do the things you want to, right? Taurus energy at the highest is spiritual, practical spirituality, right? And we've got Pluto in Capricorn grounding that, right? So technology is serving the garden, right? And nature, not replacing it. So it's all about, we are seeing a lot of things about decentralized energy, vertical farms and localized manufacturing. Although, with the growth of AI at the moment, it's using a lot of energy, right? There's countries going without power where AI is like zapping all the energy, because we must also remember the ethics in these new technologies as well. So, maybe there could be 3D printing food. I think it's already happened. We've had Bitcoin, which has been dressed up as decentralizing currency, but again, it uses a lot of electricity to fund it, right? So the material world is reorganizing from extractive, taking all and giving nothing back, to regenerative distribution, even though everything is crap at the moment. We have a lot of wars, a lot of divisions, as I said, but sometimes the old has to go in a dramatic way so the new can be born. And as I said, this magic triangle is harmonious energy, so this is all about stay in the crap, what can go on, but how you as an individual can also utilize this. So I've done 12 zodiac analysis for the sun, moon and rising signs, so check that out. But what I'm saying here is all important as well. So stubborn Taurus is saying, with Uranus being there, we're not leaving Earth, we are revolutionizing how we live on Earth, how we use Earth, right? And Neptune in Pisces, which is spiritual vision at full power, and Neptune rules Pisces, right? This is Pisces home, this is maximum mysticism, right? Collective, unconscious, rising. So as I said, we can see an increase in mass spiritual movements. We have been seeing this, but more in spiritual movements that are actually practicing what they preach rather than just saying it. We've had charismatic leaders, new ideologies, UFO disclosure, we've had a lot of that. We've had a lot of celebrity scandals revealing hidden networks, secrets exposed, and the veil between us and them, the top and the bottom is thinning, right? Compassion is becoming a collective mood, or it can become mass delusion, because even though this is a harmonious energy, it can still, lead us to spiritual bypassing at a grand scale, falling into conspiracy and dangerous cults, and lots of messiahs claiming that they are the divine. We have a lot of spiritual leaders that saying that Jesus reincarnated now, and Mother God and Father Jesus and all of that, right? And Neptune dissolves what could be, us letting go of our ego into universal love. It could be us dissolving our boundaries into psychosis. It can go either way, universal love or into delusion and psychosis, right? And we have to choose the difference. And the difference between universal love and psychosis is grounding, right? And this is where Pluto in Capricorn steps in, which brings that grounding and also brings transformational power changes in governments, corporations, institutions and hierarchies, right? The mountain is crumbling. Authority structures are showing their age, outdated. Systems built on abstraction, taking, never giving and domination are compassing into soil for new growth, We've seen a lot of CEO scandals, government corruptions being exposed, global organisations being dismantled, right? The old guard is dying off, literally, because Pluto rules death and Capricorn rules elders, but Capricorn also rules endurance, time-tested structures, right? So, the big question to ask yourself over the next 3 years is what dies and what needs to be preserved, what do you need to keep, right? And if you go back to the cosmic storm and the Jupiter cosmic storm that's happening in July 2026, check out that video. I talk more about that there. So Pluto in Capricorn asks which power structures serve life, which serve death, right? The ones serving death get composted, the ones serving life get transformed, right? So when all three work together, Uranus revolutionizes matter, Neptune spiritualizes the revolution, Pluto transforms power to align with vision. You get material innovation guided by spiritual truth, creating structural change that serves collective evolution. Or you get, tech bros building dystopia while meditating, mystics preaching oneness while capitalism crosses us, right? Power using spiritual language to consolidate, control, to take control, saying, oh yeah, this is so spiritual, but it's still, mutton dressed as lamb, as we say in the UK, the same, same poo, different day, and this triangle offers both, right? It doesn't force either, whether we change or we stick to the old way, but our personal individual choices determines which will happen, right? And also our choices as a collective. Do we give into the vision and say, well, you look different than me, you talk different from me, you've got a different religion from me, so we can't come together? Or do we come together despite our apparent differences to focus our energy on destroying or changing, rather, I like the word changing, the old guard, the old systems that don't work, and just extract and take from the 99% and give to the 1%, right? So now I'm going to go into the triangle structure and astrological timeline, going deep into that, talking about what aspects make what aspects over the next 3 years, right? And as I said, the astrology of what happening is that Uranus in Taurus, Earth is trining Pluto in Capricorn, which is Earth, so this is 120 degrees, perfect harmony, natural flow aspect, and Neptune in Pisces, water is set styling them both at 60-degree angle, so this is the bridge connector, and this requires activation. Neptune is the midpoint between the Uranus and Taurus trine, so this is the Minor Grand Trine with Neptune as the apex planet, the top planet, the midpoint energy, the translator between two Earth giants, Uranus and Pluto, which are moving in structural harmony in the trine, and Neptune bridges them through the water of imagination, vision and dissolution. The triangle is now automatic. Neptune activates it, right? Vision activates it. Uranus and Pluto in a 120-degree trine, this is Earth energy, Taurus to Capricorn. Then we've got Uranus and Neptune sextiling Earth to Water, this is Taurus to Pisces. Then we've got Neptune and Pluto sextiling Water to Earth, so Pisces to Capricorn, right? So as I said, it started in 2025, so it's a 4-year arc, and by August 2025, all three aspects entered the orb tightness at the same time, which was the hum underneath everything that made everything begin, and systems started to crack. So if you look back towards the end of last year, this is true visions, try to land, people wanting change are speaking up more and more. Power structures, existing governments are showing their age, and Uranus's trine to Pluto was first exact in July 2026. It's going to be first exact, but it entered orb on the 11th of August 2025. Neptune's Pluto sextile entered on the 29th of June 2025 and is exact in July 2026. So in 2026 July, as part of the cosmic storm as well, is the first peak. All three aspects exact within 10 days, all planets clustered between the 9th and 10th degree of their signs. So, the subtle energy, the hum, becomes a roar now. And on July 15th, 2026, all three magic triangle aspects reach exact perfection within the same 10-day window, and we have the Sabian degrees of 10 and 11 really in full resonance, and I'm going to go more into the Natsakras and Sabians later on because this is a deep dive. And remember, this is part 1 of part 3 parts, right, to break it down nice and easy for you. So this is just the introduction, introducing, yeah, that's the word, all the key players, right? 2027 is the integration year, right? So 2026 is the first peak meeting combination, right? 2027 is the integration year, so 3 exact passes in a single month, which happened in June 2027. The triangle lots in at the 12th to 13th Sabian degrees. These are higher degrees than the 2026 peak, which was catalyzed. What we started in 2026 now deepens into the burns in 2027. The work is not new, it's been integrated, and then by the time it comes to 2028, the final completion, when the triangle reaches its highest degrees of 14 to 15 Sabian degrees in May to June 2028, when Neptune and Pluto close the final exact on the 8th of November. So this is 4 years, and this is when the breath returns to where it's all began, and nothing is the same, everything is altered, but it's a return as well. So 2025, all of the Neptune, Pluto and Uranus are all hovering around the 6 Sabian degrees of their signs. When we get to 2026 July, they're between the 10th and 11th Sabian degrees. As we go into 2027, they move between the 8th and 13th Sabian degrees. And then as we get to the highest point in 2028, they go into the 14th to 15th degrees. And, it's a breath in and a partial breath out, not a return to the beginning but an integration. So this is on the individual level when we bring in all that we've learned and the changes that we want to make to our day-to-day life, whether it's the way we look after our mind, our body and our soul, our spiritual needs, our intellectual needs, our physical needs, our financial needs, right? So we've got 13 events that are happening, right? So I'm going to go through them as in-depth, right? So it's going to take me about 10 minutes to go through all of them. So as I said, we had some exact dates in 2025. So we had Uranus in the 6th Sabian degree and in the Kitra, Natsakra 3. And the Sabian symbol was a Cantovia bridge across a deep gorge. We had Neptune in the Uttra Buddhapada, Natsakra 1, having the Sabian degree of a parade of army officers in full dress. Right, so that was Uranus's set star to Neptune, and then in 2026, event 2 is Uranus's set star to Neptune. So to be clear, the magic triangle is made up of the aspects between Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, right? So event 2, Uranus is set star in Neptune, which is the third exact time, because Uranus's set star to Neptune has been going on for a short while, such as Neptune's set star to Pluto as well. But yeah, so Uranus's set star to Neptune enters on the 24th of June 2026 at 11:57 a.m. is exact for the first time on the 15th of July at 9:31 p.m. and it leaves on the 6th of August at 3:10, and all times are GMT times. So you add or subtract your time zone to get your exact times, but the dates in general stay the same. And Uranus is in the 11th Sabian degree, which is Rahini, Natsakra 4, and the first part of that. And the Sabian degree is a woman sprinkling newly risen flowers with water. And Neptune is also at the 11th Sabian degree, which has the symbology of men travelling a narrow path seeking illumination. And it's in Uttra Buddhapada, Pada 3, and then the third event is Uranus's trine to Pluto, and this is the base of the triangle, Earth trine Earth, bringing structure, flow, so nice flow to how we change our routine and changes that feel inevitable rather than forced. And of course, listen to your individual sun, moon and rising sign to see how it's going to affect you on a more personal level. So Uranus's trine to Pluto, the first exact of this magic triangle period, right, enters on the 3rd of July 2026, is exact on the 18th of July at 5:45 a.m. and leaves on the 4th of August. And Uranus is in the Pada 1, has the same Sabian symbol, and Pluto is in Savannah Pada 1 and has the Sabian symbology of a large group of pheasants. Then event 4 of this 13th event, magic triangle, is Neptune set star to Pluto, and this is a triangle apex aspect. This is the connector when Neptune and Pluto perfect on the 25th of July 2026. All 3 legs of the triangle are, exact at the same time, and this is the longest orb window in the series, which is, lasting nearly 5 months. So this is when we can really use this energy from July right up until December. So the exactness of Neptune set star to Pluto enters the exact orb on the 11th of June 2026 at 6:13 a.m. is exact for the first time on the 25th of July at 6:48 a.m. and then exact again on the 16th of September 2026 at 2:46 a.m. and leaves on the 30th of October at 10:12 a.m. right. So Neptune is in the 10th Sabian degree in Uttra Buddhapada, Pada 2, and has the Sabian symbology of an aviator in the clouds, and Pluto's in Uttra Asada, Pada 4, and has the Sabian symbology of an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor, right? So this is critical. Between July 18th and 25th of July 2026, all 3 planets are in the 10th Sabian degree range of their respective signs, so this brings a nice balance between earth and water elements. And this is a time for special meditations, taking some time out for self-reflection, spending time in nature, re-evaluating what you need to bring more of into your life, what you need to let go of, right? And then we've got event 5, which is the final event of 2026. This is Uranus's trine to Pluto, the second exact, right? Because of the retrograde, right? And Uranus has pulled back to the 9th degree, and the Earth trine deepens here, and both planets are in Pada 4, right? So this is all about endings and completions within their Natsakra cycle. And Jupiter rules both Navasas, right? So this is growth through wisdom. So Uranus' second trine of 2026 to Pluto enters on the 12th of November, is exact on the 29th of November at 11:20 a.m. and leaves on the 15th of December at 5:11 a.m. right? And then, as I said, Uranus is in Kitra, Natsakra Pada 4, and has the Sabin symbology, a Red Cross nurse, and Pluto's in Uttra Asada Pada 4 and has the Sabin symbology at Albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor, right? So yeah, that's 2026. So as we go into 2027, event 6 is Uranus' sextile to Neptune. So this is the 4th exact, right, over this magic triangle period, right? So this orb carries over from the 21st of December 2026. Uranus has retrograded back to the 7th degree, a lower Sabin degree than its previous passage, right? So this is a deepening return, not a regression, but just reflecting about the changes you may or may not have made and how you are going to make the changes or continue making the changes, right? So this entered, as I said, on the 21st of December 2026. It's exact for the first time on the 15th of January 2027 at 9:30 a.m. and leaves on the 14th of February 2027 at 4:09 a.m. right? So Uranus is in the 8th Sabin degree in Katikra, Pada 4, and has the Sabin symbology, a sleigh without snow. And then Neptune is in the 8th Sabin degree, which has the Sabin symbology, a girl blowing a bugle. That was a girl blowing a bugle, like a trumpet instrument, right? And the Natsakra is Uttra Pada 2, right? And then the 7th event of this 13th event, magic triangle over 3 years, right, is Uranus' sextile to Neptune. So this is the 5th and final exact of this period, right? Both at 30 degree, the same Sabin degrees as, the 2028 completions of this event where the arc closes in harmony. I'm going to talk about that in a short while. So this enters, so we're talking about exact orbs. So orbs with sextiles can last up to 3 to 4 degrees in astrology. So of course, Uranus sextile Neptune is still going to go on into 2029 and beyond, but the magic triangle ends, right? And it's not going to be as close as this, just to be clear. So this enters on the 7th of May 2027 at 5:45 p.m. It's exact on the 6th of June 2027 at 11:07 a.m. It leaves us on the 29th of June at 5:57 a.m. right? And Uranus is in the 13th Sabin degree, which has the symbology a porter carrying heavy baggage, right? And as I said, I'm going to go deep into the layers of the Natsakras and the Sabin symbols probably in part 3. So watch out for that. And as I go on and recording this now, it may actually go into 4 parts, but we'll see. So anyway, the Sabin symbology for this is a sword used in many battles in a museum, right? And then we've got event 8 of 13, which is Uranus' trine to Pluto, which is the 3rd exact, right? So this is part of the June 2027 conversion combination mixture, right? Events 7, 8 and 9 are all exact within the same month, so this is the peak integration year, as I said before. So this enters on the 1st of June 2027 at 6:17 a.m, is exact on the 15th of June 2027 at 9:12 a.m, and leaves us on the 29th of June at 4:15 a.m, and as I said, all times are British summer times or GMT times, right? So Uranus is in Rahini, Pada 1, Natsakra, same Sabin symbol, right? And Pluto has the Sabin symbol, a fire worshipper, meditates on the ultimate realities of existence, right? And this is in the Savannah, Natsakra, Pada 1, right? So event 9 is Neptune sextile to Pluto. This is the 3rd and the 4th exact time. So we have Neptune sextile to Pluto entering the orb on the 25th of May 2027 at 3:30 p.m. and this is the longest single sustained window in the series, nearly 6 months. The bridge between vision, Neptune ray, and structural power, Pluto, is being held open. It's exact for the first time on the 29th of June 2027 at 1:08 a.m. Then the second exact time is on the 16th of October 2027 at 3:27 p.m. and then it leaves on the 25th of November at 1:58 a.m. So 6 months, right? So Neptune is in the Uttra Baddhapada Naksatra Pada 3 in the 11th Sabin degree, which is, men travelling a narrow path, seeking illumination, enlightenment, right? So this Sabin symbol is guiding us to awaken on the deeper levels, right? And then Pluto is in Savannah, Pada 1 still at the Sabin symbol, a large group of pheasants, right? So June 2027 sees the magic triangle unite at 13 degrees Sabin across all three planets, Uranus, Neptune, right? On the 6th of June is that Uranus, Pluto, the 15th of June is that, and then Neptune, Pluto later at the 11th degree but climbing, and this is, when the higher degree integration will go deeper. Then it went in 2026 because of this, right? So we're moving on to 2028 to the 10th event of 13, right? So we've got Uranus making another trine to Pluto. This is the 4th exact, and this orb has carried over from the 27th of December at 4:23 p.m. when it enters, right? And the Earth trine returns in 2028 at the same 13th degree Sabin degree as the June 2027, echoing the integration, right? So it's exact on the 13th of January at 6:38 a.m. It leaves on the 2nd of February at 6:21 p.m. and Uranus still has the Sabin symbology, a porter carrying heavy baggage, and is in the Pada 1 of Vahini, and Pluto is in Savannah, Pada 1, and still has the Sabin symbology, a fire worshipper meditates on the ultimate realms of resistance, right? And then we've got Uranus making a trine to Pluto, the 5th and final exact highest degree, right? And both Uranus and Pluto are in Pada 2, both in the Venus Nambasas, right? And this is a rare mirroring, and the trine peaks and closes in the same, breath, right? So it enters on the 19th of April 2028 at 4:01 p.m. is exact on the 10th of May at 4:06 a.m. and leaves on the 26th of May at 8:51 a.m. And Uranus is in the 15th degree, Sabin degree of Taurus, which has the Sabin symbology, a man with a silk hat, muffled against the cold, braves the storm. So this energy is allowing us to, go on into the night, into the day as well, with all the things we've learnt over the past 3 years, and brave the storm, as in have the courage to overcome all obstacles, right? And then Pluto is in the 15th Sabin degree, which has the Sabin symbology, many toys in the child's ward of a hospital. So toys in a child hospital, right? So yeah, we may be a bit, damaged from the changes, letting go, the transformation Pluto's given us, but there's toys there, so there's hope and happiness, there's play to be playful with the things that are happening around us. And Pluto's in Savannah, Pada 2, right? And then we've got Neptune sextile to Pluto, and this is the 5th exact at the highest degree. So this apex aspect peaks in Uttra Baddhapada for the final Pada before Raviti, the last Pada in the Naksatra system, right? As Pisces dissolves into the next cycle and starts in Aries again, right? So this enters on the 7th of May 2028 at 7:21 p.m. is exact on the 9th of June 2028 at 5:36 a.m. and leaves us on the 18th of July 2028 at 6:41 a.m. So Neptune's in the 15th Sabin degree in Uttra Pada 4, as I said, and has the Sabian symbology, an officer instructing his men before assimilated assault under a barrage of life. Sounds right. And Pluto's still in Savannah, Pada 2, with the Sabian symbology of many toys in the children's ward of hospital, right? So Pluto's in the Venus, Taurus, Namvasa, Neptune's in the Mars, Scorpio, Namvasa, so it's the second, 8th house, the letting go, dissolution of Scorpio, right? And Taurus are inner values, beauty, and material possessions as well. And then the final event, 13, is Neptune sextile to Pluto. So this is the 6th and final exact, right? And this completes the triangle. So the triangle closes on the 8th of November 2028, 4 years since it started in 2025, right? So, Venus in the Libra and Vasa, the balance, bringing it home. The sword has retired, the fire held, the integration complete, right? So this enters on the 29th of September at 1:12 p.m, is exact on the 8th of November at 1:33 a.m, leaves on the 13th of December at 6:08 a.m, and it's in Ultra by the Pada 3, and again the Sabian symbology is a sword used in many battles in a museum. So this is us as an individual. We've been through many battles, right? But now we're in the museum, now we're displaying, now we're integrating, now we're accepting what we had to let go of, deep into our routines and aware of what we need to do, because we should have self-reflected on what we need to do to bring balance to our spiritual, emotional, psychological, financial and physical life, right? And Pluto's in Savannah, Pada 1. Pluto's still in the 13th Sabian degree, which has the Sabian symbology. A fire worshipper meditates on the ultimate realities of resistance. So this, is the magic triangle after all. So this is, a Sabian symbology which, sums up the meaning of this magic triangle. It's a magic energy, it's a minor grand trine, it's more of an esoteric hidden aspect. It's up to us to use it, but it's still going to bring changes on the world level, because we've got Neptune's sextile to Pluto involved, Uranus is trine to Pluto involved as well, and we've got Neptune, Pluto and Uranus involved in this magic triangle, right? So that's the end of the quick reference, timeline and structure section, right? And now I'm going to talk about the rune and poo shadow of this energy now. So we're going to go into the depths on the shadows of it all, and then after that I'm going to talk about the 3 aspects explained in a bit more depth, and that's the end of this part 1. And then as we go into part 2, I'm going to talk about zodiac signs for all 12 sun, moon and rising signs. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so this is the wound of the magic triangle, what it's going to expose for us. So this is pure shadow. There's no gifts in this section, no, but if you transform it, no redemptive arc, this is the poison without an antidote, the trap without an escape, the failure mode when the triangle activates unconsciously or gets weaponized by forces serving, death and destruction rather than life and rebirth, right? So because we've got that trine between Uranus and Pluto, right, it can bring trine laziness, right? So I'm starting with the bad, and then the next bit I'm going to talk a bit more about the good and wrap up part 1 there, right? So yeah, so the revolution that we sleep through, right, is the trine laziness energy of Uranus trine Pluto, earth to earth, 120 degrees perfect harmony. So because material changes, innovation can flow naturally into structural transformation, so easy it happens whether you're awake or not. And that's the danger of trines always. Astrologers know people born with a lot of trines, and what says they should have a good life and be, successful, whatever, sometimes don't hit the mark because it's a trine. You have to use it, you have to activate it, right? So that's the danger. Trines don't push, squares push, friction forces awareness, oppositions push, because polarization, because, opposition, the easiest way to think of an opposition is Scorpio and Taurus, 2nd and 8th house. They naturally oppose each other in the zodiac, right? And this demands choice. So does Quinquats, Quinquats energy says you have to adjust many times a day when you've got these in your natal chart, right? But as I said, trines just flow, smooth, effortless. You can ride a trine your whole life and never question where it's taking you, right? And Uranus is trine to Pluto, 2026 to 2028 means revolutionary material changes flowing into structural transformation without resistance, systems falling, new systems rising, and if you're not conscious, you just adapt, right? The way you adapted to smartphones, social media, the gig hustle economy, freelancing, right? Surveillance, capitalism, and the algorithm that we see in social media, in terms of short content, TikTok and all of that, and the algorithmic curation of reality where it just feeds you what it knows that you like, so you can go into a bubble, forget to critical think. And this is why we've got a lot of division, because we forget about the other. If we just fed content that meets our needs, we forget about other views, other opinions that can be equally as valid as our own, right? So each of these, the way we adapted to smartphones, social media, gig economy, surveillance, capitalism with cameras everywhere, ring door cameras and other, door cameras are available. Each one revolutionary. Uranus, each one has transformed power structures. Pluto, each one is changing how we live, work, think and relate, and especially now we've got AI coming in, it's changing how we educate ourselves. Do we need books anymore? Of course we do. We need the earth, going out in nature, socialising with other human beings, even though some humans are opting to take romantic interest from an AI chatbot. Each to their own. It's up to you. But what we have to, the magic triangle is wanting us not to get lazy with this energy and not to sleepwalk into changes, to make a critical choice on who we want to be as we go into this AI generation, right? So think about it. Did you choose the way we adapted to smartphones? Especially if you were born before they came into society. Remember when you had to go to the phone box back in my day? But yeah, now we've got the phone, right, straight away. So anyway, did you choose any of this, or did it just happen to you? And most of the time, all these things just happen. We didn't really choose it, right? And that's trying laziness, right? Change so smooth, you don't notice you're changing. Innovation is so seductive, you don't ask who it serves, right? Is it really serving you to have all these cameras? And yeah, it helps with crime, and of course it is good, but what about privacy, right? So transformation has been so gradual that we haven't recognised that we've been transformed, but things have changed a lot even in the past 20 years, right? And we've seen a lot of revolutionary aesthetics, people wearing the clothes, the crystals, when we go into the spiritual, sewing the tarot cards and going into the sallow end of even astrology, the sun sign astrology. Don't get me wrong, there's some in it, but I'm all about the aspects, because aspects in the natal chart, it gives you more determined on who you are as an individual. That's why two people born on, within a day with Aries, sun can be completely different. They both got sun Aries, but one may have an opposition, one may have a lot of trines, So, revolutionary aesthetics without the revolutionary substance, without the depth of astrology, right? So, as if you listen to me, I like to go in depth. I like to give you the times, the dates, the fusion of the Natsapras and the Sabian symbols, because astrology is all about layers, and there's different things that we can resonate with depending on our natal chart, right? So, systems can rebrand, extraction, giving back as regeneration. I'll go into what that means in a short while, right? Capitalism painting itself green and caring about the planet, right? Corporations claiming sustainability while destroying ecosystems. Tech companies promising liberation while building surveillance architecture, right, that takes our freedom and liberation more and more away. governments claiming democracy while concentrating power into centralized systems, taken away from the many, giving it to the few, and the material changes, which we've seen in a lot of countries, that the war's ongoing. And I'm not going to mention any events in by name, but we all know the events that are happening in 2026. There's a lot of famine going on, a lot of destruction, a lot of people being persecuted for their beliefs, the colour of their skin, who they choose to be, right? We are seeing real material changes, Uranus and Taurus energy, decentralized technology, localized production, alternative currency with Bitcoin and stuff, and innovative agriculture. All these things without consciousness. Yeah, it's good. We want to localize production, buy from local gardeners, farmers and stuff like that. We want technology to be more decentralized for the many. We're seeing that with the uptake in AI and the access to these, powerful LLMs and stuff, right? Language learning machines, AI. But, if we do it without consciousness, without asking who owns it, who profits from it, who gets access, who's excluded, these innovations just become new tools for old extraction, right? Just another way for capitalism to extract, the food to extract from the many, right? For example, Bitcoin is decentralized currency, Uranus and Taurus energy, disrupting centralized banking, which is, Pluto in Capricorn energy, right? This looks revolutionary, like a big change, and for some it is. It's, you are allowed to be sovereign, to have your own freedom from the state control of money, but also Bitcoin mining consumes more electricity than entire countries, as I said before, right? And destroying ecosystems to save us from banks, is that really ethical? Is that sustainable long term, really, if it uses up all of the world's electricity? The same with AI as well, So wealth is concentrating in early adopters while calling itself democratic. It's typically the people at the top of any system go to Bitcoin, people made money, and then it creates a pyramid scheme. It's the same with anything from, I don't know, we used to have the Avon lady when now I'm showing my age, but with all kind of pyramid time sales, people buying shares in holiday homes. It's the same, the same cat, different day, right? It's where those who get in early get the money, then you have to recruit others, and really it's a pyramid, just those at the top keep on making the money, right? So it's the same inequality, different vehicle, it's Bitcoin, it's not the capitalist note system, government system, banking system, but it still does the same, right? So this is revolutionary aesthetics, extractive, taking all and giving nothing back, it's just taking, or, another example of green technology, electric cars, solar panels, wind turbines, innovation, right? Uranus energy, transforming energy infrastructure, which is Pluto. It looks regenerative, but, lithium mining for batteries is destroying indigenous land, native land across the world, the people that actually live here. So often people in the Western countries can have all these gadgets, right? And then the cobalt mining uses child slaves sometimes to get, cobalt, and, it's the same with the diamond industry as well. And solar panel production is toxic. So yeah, it's good to save an electricity bills, but the materials to make the solar panels is toxic. Wind turbines are killing the birds, nature, we've got species going extinct, and ownership is concentrated in the same corporations that profited from fossil fuels, right? Because, the old organizations are typically the ones that have the money to invest in these things in the first place. So they are not losing power, they're transitioning it to the next extraction model while calling it sustainability, and we're all buying into it, right? So that's how the gift of this Uranus trine Pluto becomes poison. Change happens so smoothly, you don't notice the same violence, just change costumes, right? So disruption as a brand, not transformation. the tech industry weaponizing Uranus language, such as, every startup claims they're disrupting some industry for the better, taking the power back from, the system, the centralized system that's draining us. But what they actually mean is we're replacing old extraction with new extraction and calling it innovation and change, right? So, for example, Uber disrupts the taxi industry by classifying drivers as contractors rather than employees, eliminating labour protections and suppressing wages while its founders become billionaires. And we all like an Uber. I'm not going to say I don't get in one. I haven't gotten in one, but, it may be cheaper than traditional cabs. We've got traditional cabs in London here and, taxi drivers in New York who paid thousands of pounds and dollars for their medallions and their badges, and now obsolete in some ways, right, because of Uber. So it's disrupting the taxi industry, but it's also, costing people livelihoods and pricing out people that paid a lot of money for these specialised badges as well. And then we've got Airbnb that disrupts hotels by converting residential housing to tourists, and rentals displacing locals as well, because people are just buying houses in popular locations where the local people that actually want to live there, not just make money there, can't afford to live in their hometowns. So this drives up rents and destroys the fabric of the neighbourhood. We all kind of keep away from our neighbours now. And Amazon disrupts retail by building a monopoly, crushing small businesses, turning workers into, robots controlled by algorithms, right? Because you have to pick items in a certain hour within a certain time. That's what I'm saying. While Bezos hoards wealth beyond comprehension, and this is Uranus Trine Pluto weaponized. Material innovation, new technology is transforming power structures. Old industries die, new ones rise, and it's a conundrum because we all like Amazon and eBay and stuff like that for cheaper goods, and they're not all entirely bad, but we need fairness in wages and equality, right? And power is concentrated more than before because it's going to, big companies, and the few are getting, the 99% are getting poorer and poorer by the year. So as I said, material innovation, new technology, transforming power structures where old industries die and new ones rise out of the old, but the power is more concentrated than before. So this isn't a revolution, this is rebanding, and it's easy because it's a trine, right? The change flows so smoothly. Like I said, going back, we're used to smartphones now, we're used to social media, we're used to convenience, we're used to not using cash anymore and just using apps and our bank account on our phones to pay for, right? So resistance to the change feels futile, nonsensical, no need, because it's convenience. We can just DoorDash food to us. We don't need to leave our home ever now, right? Because companies like Amazon and Uber that often drivers deliver the food, right, especially in the UK, has made it so easier for us, right? So, we just say things like, this is just how things are now. Adapt or get left behind, and that's true laziness, right? Surrender dressed as acceptance, right? Where we just accept it because it's convenience to us without thinking about the real cost, the cost of living crisis that we've got going on across the world, where we have people blaming different people. Some people say it's the people on welfare, some people say it's the migrants causing economies, but the true cause, what I see independent, is that wages haven't gone up in most Western and other countries, for years, but the price of the cost of living has gone up, right? So systems may fall, but new systems rise, and nobody questions whether the new is better, right? It's just typically more convenient and easier, right? And we're all involved in this because we all like the convenience, and that's how it is now. We don't want to wait 2 days when we can have something in an hour. It is what it is. So that's, surrender dressed up as acceptance, because we're accepting it, but we're not seeing that we're causing our own prison, because accepting these things and, buying from Amazon and, convenience is, causing our own cost of living crisis, because these companies don't have to put prices up, right? And at the moment, people are competing competing more and more for jobs, right? So the trine assumes new equals better and change equals progress, because if we're getting things delivered to our door, and 20 years ago we couldn't even do that, we had to go to the store. We can see it as progress, but evolution doesn't optimize for human growth and flourishing. It optimizes for survival of whatever and whoever adapts the fastest, right? And in capitalism, who adapts fastest isn't what serves life, right? It's what maximizes profit. So yes, systems are falling, centralize everything, giving way to decentralized networks, and we're seeing this increasingly, and it's only going to get worse if we don't take a stand, right? So on the individual level, what can you do? Well, you can try and make one step at a time, right? So if you don't recycle a bit, and if you sometimes forget to do it. If you normally get everything delivered maybe once a month or once a year, even baby steps, right? I believe if we all just make one small change, this is how we can change things for the collective, instead of getting all your food delivered one time, just go to the store, if you can do that, right? Because decentralization serves extraction. If power still concentrates, if resources are still hoarded, if the many still serve the few, then nothing fundamentally has changed, right? Just different architecture system, companies housing the same violence, inequality, and the trine ease makes the substitution seamless, right? We can think that we're revolutionizing, look how great things are, we've got AI giving us freedom, but we're redecorating because it's still going to control every aspect of our life if we're not careful, if we just give into this new technology without wanting to make them ethical. Now, the shadow of the sextile passivity, right? The door you never knocked on. So Uranus is sextile to Neptune, and Neptune sextile to Pluto are both 60-degree sextiles. Both require us to activate the energy, The door's open, we can walk through it, or you can stand there staring at the door while it slowly closes, right? Most people will stand there. Sextiles offer potential that don't force manifestation after all. So you can have Uranus in Taurus, material, innovation and change, and Neptune in Pisces, spiritual vision, operating in your life at the same time, and they can never connect, right? They can be compartmentalized. We can keep our material changes separate from our spiritual vision, right? So how do we do this? I hear you cry. So imagine someone can meditate in the morning and exploit in the afternoon and consume unconsciously in the evening, right? So innovation stays soulless, the vision stays ungrounded, the sextile offered the bridge and you didn't walk it, right? You didn't make things come together. So this is how you can meditate in the morning and exploit and take advantage of others in the afternoon through your career, and go into a state of consuming unconsciously in the evening, because we all want to switch off from work, and this is where we can cause the negative end of Neptune and Pisces energy, going to over drinking, over Netflix and chilling. I love that one. Or not me personally, but just the whole saying. But anyway, overindulging in drugs and intoxicating situations, all because we want to numb from the pressures of our day-to-day life. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we have to be careful, right? Because visions can stay ungrounded, innovation can stay soulless, because we don't connect our mind, body and soul. We often compartmentalize everything, and then this is what keeps us, being able to work in systems that don't benefit us, but because we have to pay those bills and stuff, but also create stress on our body and our mind and our soul, right? So the mystic never lands because you didn't walk the path. Neptune in Pisces creates mass spiritual awakening. Millions are leaving organized religion, finding direct mystical experience, beautiful and necessary, but without Uranus, Taurus energy, using that bit, material innovation, grounding the visions and taking care of the practical, your bills, your body even, it stays a fantasy, you have profound, deep spiritual experiences, and we see this a lot, where people like, I'm not my mind, or I'm my soul, I'm not my body. Yeah, this is true, but we have to realise that we are higher consciousness, having a human experience that still needs to take care of the practical needs. And that's not about saying, well, if I work and do certain things, I'm participating in capitalism. On the highest ebb, Taurus energy, it's an earth sign, so it's it's about accumulating possessions. But on the highest end, it's about your inner values, and it's about spiritualizing your pursuit of material things, right? So bringing the spiritual into your material, which is taking what you need, earning what you need for your needs, not just accumulating, gathering wealth for wealth's sake, wealth that you and even 10 generations after you couldn't even spend, right? So, you can have deep spiritual experiences, you can see through the illusion of separation, you recognize universal consciousness, and then you go back to the exploitative work, extracting, taking on, and giving nothing back. Consumption, systems built on domination. The visions didn't change anything material, right? Transcendence was used as an escape instead of, a transformation practice, or even worse, spiritual bypassing at the scale of we are all one, while ignoring material inequality, using phases such as love and light, which have has grown in popularity over the past 20 years or so, while systems trust the universe, while fascism rise, ignoring, the migration problems in terms of, saying, oh, well, maybe these people shouldn't come to our country, but not seeing that they have poor healthcare. Typically, the wealthy countries extract the resources from the poor countries. That's why they're poorer than most of the world, right? Inequalities in wages, and, saying, oh, well, we're all one, and yeah, that's all nice, we are all one, but practically, there's people out there who are dying of diseases in certain countries, where in like a Western country they wouldn't die from that. So, it's about practical spiritualism, this magic triangle. We've got two earth energies, Uranus and Pluto, grounding these higher octaves of spirituality, wanting us to get practical and bring, heaven onto earth, like that song, heaven is a place on earth, but really making it right. So the mystic in the clouds, which is the Sabian symbology for Pisces, right? The aviator who never lands, it's a beautiful flight, zero impact. That's Neptune, sextile Uranus when we don't activate it, right? The potential was there, innovation could have grounded the vision. Vision could have spiritualized changes and innovation, but the sextile doesn't force that, you have to choose, and most people don't, right? So the vision never grounds, and innovation never spiritualizes, and the split continues, right? Spiritual people meditating while the world burns, because we're all higher consciousness, right? It's not about material possessions, and of course it's not, but these are real human beings, that are being affected by lack of healthcare, lack of education, lack of equal rights and justice in their countries, right? And then we've got material people that are into money and wealth and power, building a dystopia while preaching mindfulness, being disconnected from the majority. They don't have to face the issues with people with money. You can say things like, we've all got the same 24 hours in the day. That's true, but if you've got people that can help you with your day-to-day tasks like cleaning, looking after the children, then of course you've got more access to time than people who have to clean their own house, So, each side thinks they evolve. Those who, the spiritual people meditating while the world burns, and the material people building a dystopia while preaching mindfulness. And of course, we're never just, we are all many things at the same time. It's not just black and white like that, but, each side thinks they evolve, neither side is integrating, one side's blaming the other for the world's problems and, trivializing it without seeing the reality that, when you've got the resources already, and as the access to getting these resources get wider and wider, it's harder for people. It's not impossible, of course we can. It's the magic triangle. Anything can happen. We can use this power. I believe in the power of thought and positive affirmations, but we also have to take practical actions. I also have resolved within myself that all the things that I I may want in this lifetime, I may not get, but if I keep on working, I will get some of them, and that's how we can keep humble, and this is how we can get back up after every failure, and be realistic, about what we can actually achieve in a lifetime. So, spiritual people are, involved in devotive practice, maybe the insight, genuine connection to the numinous, the magical on a different level, but have zero engagement with material systems. And of course, it's not just about wealth and wealth building and all of that, saying things like, I'm not political, I focus on my inner work, which is privilege dressed as transcendence, right? Because not everybody, if you've got money, for instance, and you can spend your time meditating, and you've already got the wealth to be that spiritual, it's a privilege to do that. It's a privilege because, I realised even on my journey that, most people want to do the right thing and want to, find out things and stuff, but when you have to work more and more each day, you don't have the privilege. And going back to, what I was saying, you try laziness, so you just wanting to numb out of consciousness because you having to work under pressure and stuff, it can be hard to take time out to even care about other people when you are so focused on just making ends meet, with the cost of living going up and up and up, right? So inner work is possible because material systems provide a stability that you take for granted, however corrupt typically, right? And but there's zero spiritual alignment. Consciousness is neurons firing, meaning is what creates shareholder value, and purpose is efficient resource allocation, which is basically psychopathy, being a psycho, right, dressed as rationality. So material success can be built on extraction, taking, and you're refusing to see because you say things like, we've all got 24 hours in a day, we all can do this. And of course people can, we can all do, I believe we can all do a lot more than what we are doing in terms of our potential and reaching our goals. But when you have to work 8 to 10 hours a day, commute to work, look after children and other commitments, it can be hard to make time for your goals, right? So it's about seeing both sides of every argument rather than just saying these cliche platitudes and sayings, right? Some people refuse to engage in spiritual questions because they're optimizing for metrics that serve death by calling it progress. And the both different groups, those focus on the material and those focus just on the spiritual, could activate the set style. Spiritual people ground their vision in material practice, making sure that all their needs are met, not over consuming, of course, if that's not your bag, but making sure that your beliefs are grounded in practicality. Because if you just spend all your day meditating and you have no means to pay rent and pay your day-to-day costs, and you could end up taking the roof from over your head and your family's head. So it's about being practical as well, but not ignoring the spiritual as well. So finding that balance, right? And material people can spiritualize innovation with conscious values. So thinking about other people and their needs and what it actually takes for you to be successful. If you've got loads of people that do all the tasks, handle your emails, handle your phone calls, look after your kids, do all your housework and stuff, of course, you live in a privileged position than someone who can't afford those to do that. So it's about being conscious with what you're putting out there in the world, and the set styles are showing us that the bridges, exists, but most won't cross it. The opportunity unused then becomes resentment, such as nothing ever changes, but you never knocked the door, you never walked through it. The set style offered innovation, vision and connection, but you didn't activate it, and now you're bitter that the world didn't transform while you stayed passive. So the magic triangle is calling for each of us to make the changes that we can in our own family, in our own communities, in our own nations, right? And the passivity, and the endless scrolling and getting stuck in our algorithmic Bubbles is an academic, right? People are consuming spiritual content, reading articles about revolution, posting progressive memes, because if you check most people's Instagrams and social media, they're like gurus, right? Attending workshops and transformation, but doing zero practical work, right? And the set style gave you potential, you mistook consumption for activation, consuming the spiritual life rather than living the spiritual life, or anything that you're into. The set style gave you the potential, as I said, and you wasted it. To use this energy, practically, activation of this energy looks like reorganizing your spiritual insight, your relationship to food, what you eat, where it comes from, how it's grown, your material innovation serving the collective vision, the technology you build and work with, the work that you do, the resources you allocate, right? The mysticism in the small daily choices, what you buy from the supermarket you buy from, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, the revolution, happening and at breakfast, just making one small change, in your life. If everybody did that, I think the world would be a better place. It's not just about the big grand gestures. This is the magic triangle full of trines and sextiles. It's sort of energy, right? So, the revolution is happening in breakfast, but that requires walking through the door, right? It's easy to stand there talking about the door, posting about the door, meditating on the door, while never crossing the threshold and walking through the door. So we have to use this energy, we have to walk through the door over the next 3 years, starting today or whenever, make a plan of what you want to achieve over the next 3 years, and revisiting this part 1 and part 2 and 3 over the years to make sure you're on track, because I understand this is in depth, say a lot, and you may not take everything in the first listen. So there's also the Neptune delusion, right? The apex, Neptune's in the midpoint, right? The top, the climax poison, right? So everything filters through Neptune, because Neptune's in the middle of Uranus and Pluto at the time of this magic triangle, right? Every breakthrough, every innovation, every transformation passes through the mystic lens, right? Which could be enlightenment, or it could be the most dangerous delusion of the century, right? So 2026 to 2028, with Neptune as the apex top planet, means that material revolution change, Uranus Pluto, is being filtered through the spiritual vision of Neptune. So what happens when the vision is delusional? Well, the spiritual language, Neptune energy, right, is used to avoid structural responsibility, Pluto energy, saying things such as money is energy, wealth is abundance consciousness, and you have to think positive, but you've got to do positive, but you also have to be practical about the restrictions without being cynical and going into woe is me mode, and not realizing that success, the road to success, contains many failures, and it's all about getting back up after those failures, right? And saying things like money is energy, wealth is abundance, consciousness, and just thinking it. No, money is power. We see it. People with money in this world can buy themselves out of jail. What if you can get yourself the right lawyer, you can get away with murder. Wealth is hoarded resources that could save somebody's life, because you've got access to these things and other people have not. And spiritual bypassing and ignoring these home truths doesn't dissolve the material violence, it just obscures it. Or woke corporations, right? Rainbow capitalism, companies selling pride milk while funding anti-LGBTQ politicians, brands posting Black Lives Matter and other things like that while paying black workers poverty wages, right? Spiritual ascetics, Neptune hiding structural extraction, Pluto, the 1% taking from the 99%, right? The triangle filtered through delusion instead of truth. Transcendence as escape from material revolution. Uranus in Taurus says, revolutionize your relationship to matter. Change your relationship to food, shelter, energy, money, land. Neptune at the apex, the midpoint, right? The climax says, or transcend. matter entirely, escape into spirit, leave the material world behind them. We've seen a lot of that in the past 20 years, and this is the new age track, right? The external world is an illusion. Focus on raising your vibration, manifest abundance through consciousness, which sounds spiritual but functions as abandonment, right? If material systems are just illusion, why engage in them? Why, engage them? Why organize and resist and build alternatives? Just vibrate higher and wait for reality to match your frequency, rather than taking practical actions to change, the reality. And that's, Neptune poisoning the triangle. The material revolution, Uranus, Pluto, Trine energy offers, gets bypassed by spiritual fantasy, and the systems keep extracting while you're meditating, dangerous ideologies and cults, and we've seen a lot of these, right? And messiahs claiming that they're the divine, and Neptune in Pisces creates these charismatic spiritual leaders, and Pluto in Capricorn transforms institutional power, and together new movements consolidate control through spiritual authority. And the pattern is the leader claims direct connection to the divine, right? And the followers surrender their personal freedom. That's Pluto, Capricorn power, concentrated energy. And the leaders claiming their direct connection to the divine is Neptune and Pisces energy. And the ideology promises salvation through submission, and some people use their minds, their homes, their families, because questioning is ego, doubt is low vibration, leaving is betrayal, leaving the cult is betrayal, and the spiritual language, such as oneness, love and healing, is used to create an authoritarian structure. And this isn't fringe, this is mainstream wellness culture. Influencers as gurus, right? Toxic positivity is a spiritual practice, like the universe gives, it never takes away. Vibrate here and do this and you'll be rich and stuff. The reason why you ain't got the money is because you're not thinking a certain way, ignoring all the material factors that get in the way of people creating financial stability for themselves, right? Boundary setting means cutting off everyone who questions you. Protecting your energy means avoiding all discomfort. High vibration means only engaging with people who validate you. And when Neptune is in the middle, the apex, the top, the climax of the Uranus-Pluto triangle, these movements can gain power. They're not just online, they're organizing, buying land, building compounds, creating parallel economies, and spiritual ideology, Neptune, and directing material change, Uranus, and structural transformation, Pluto. Could be liberation, could be a cult, so again, it's about the choices that we make. As I said earlier, right, the magic triangle has to be used, and we're going to see over the next 3 years that we've got a lot of choices to make as individuals and as collectives, right? Because this is already in reality, mass delusion, conspiracy theories, and there's a lot of truth in conspiracies, but some of them are just outrageous. Like I went through a phase when I was really into conspiracy theories, and I still believe in them, but not in the maddening sense, not in the sense where I know that other things matter as well, like the practical of day-to-day life, the true struggles that people go through with their spiritual and emotional and psychological trauma and pain, right? So Neptune energy dissolves boundaries between what's true and what's false. Pluto exposes secrets. Uranus revolutionizes information distribution, and together every conspiracy theory spreading at light speed, millions believing contradictory realities simultaneously, and objective truth collapsing entirely. And as I said, we're already here, and whether it's right or not, I see all sides. Half the population believes their election was stolen. COVID is a bioweapon, holds vaccines. Vaccines are depopulation. Climate change is fake and the earth is flat. JFK Jr. is returning and celebrities drink children's blood. Not a metaphor, millions believe this, right? And again, I'm not saying there's not some truth in some of this. I'm not saying, because we've seen a lot of scandals with celebrities where it has been proven that they've done crimes, especially sexual crimes and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that it's not true. What I'm saying is we get lost in a saviour coming back in some master agenda, or it's being deeper than what it is. The system is corrupt. That's the main thing. So whether they're doing this so that depopulation is corrupt, it doesn't serve everyone, especially in countries like America where healthcare isn't free, so that, it's depopulation because people are not having access to healthcare, which means that some people die from things that can be cured, where we have the doctors and the resources to heal not only people in Western countries, but in countries where again don't have the same access to medicine. So that's the real truth, is that it's the inequality of resources being hoarded that's causing all the inequality. So yes, there may be JFK Jr. may come, and there may be agendas that are happening. I'm not saying that, but we have to get real on what we can do to change the systems, right? Not go deeper into the layers of why the system's corrupt, and it's corrupt because of this, of that. It's corrupt, it needs to change, and Neptune in Pisces, made all of it possible because it dissolved boundaries between fact and fiction, made subjective experience feel like objective truth, especially, as I said earlier, we live in our algorithm bubbles where social media feeds just feed us what we want to see, so we can start believing that's the only reality and lose touch with actual reality, right? And 2026 to 2028 with Neptune as the peak, the apex, the midpoint of this triangle, intensifies all of these sort of things, right? Material changes, Uranus, Pluto can happen so fast, and we are seeing that with AI, right? And it's feeling so destabilizing. Whole industries are being disrupted, from web design to writers, right, because of AI, right? And people are retreating into comforting delusions, and disclosure reveals nothing because everything's already been disclosed by conspiracy theories, and nobody knows what's real anymore because we're in the age of information. We're overwhelmed with information, right? And secrets get exposed, but nobody believes them because trust has collapsed entirely. And the triangle's potential, we've seen that with a lot of celebrities that have been called, and we had people called out for certain things, whether it's sexual, assault and stuff, and people are like, no, the government's just trying to take them down, which that could be a truth as well, because I believe that people in the industry know what people are getting up to for years and decades. Nobody speaks out, and then it comes a time when people speak out, right? So that, there can be more than one thing can be true at the same time, right? So we're basically living in a world where AI can deepfakes and all that. So what, as I said earlier, is seeing, really believing. So the triangle's potential is material spiritual integration, and material chaos filtered through spiritual delusion, creating collective psychosis, right? And the aviator in the clouds, which is the Sabian symbol for Neptune in Pisces, means we can never land, getting more and more lost. The longer we fly, the more information we consume, the more we don't critical think, and we can claim that being lost is enlightenment, but it's not, right? So we have to be careful with this magic triangle energy of what we choose to believe in over the next 2 to 3 years, specifically with the increase of uses of deepfakes, AI and all sorts going on. People can clone your voice, and we all know the stories. Lots of scams going on, I'm not going to go deep into it, but we have to make sure we do what we can to keep our sanity and to know ourselves, right? So there's going to be a material spiritual split, the divorce that kills both. So as I said, the triangle offers integration. Matter and spirit can work together, but the sadder version is the split continues, deepens and becomes unbridgeable, can't work together. Spiritual people ignoring the earth, material people ignoring spirit, and each side thinks they're superior to the other, where spiritual people say the material world is an illusion, consciousness is all that matters. Things like you're stuck in ego identity, 3D reality, which can be translated to I'm avoiding responsibility for material engagement, by calling it enlightenment, right? And, you know, my privilege allows me to transcend while others suffer, and I'm judging you for caring about material reality, which I take for granted. And material people in turn can say spirituality is a delusion, matter is all that exists, you know, money, wealth and power is all that there is. Saying things such as you're wasting time in fairy tales, and this translates into I'm avoiding existential questions by reducing everything to mechanism, right? And my nihilism protects me from confronting the meaning I am terrified to find, and I'm judging you for seeking what I've declared impossible. You know, both sides could use the triangle to integrate. Spiritual people grounding mysticism in material practice, material people spiritualizing matter with, you know, conscious meaning, and the bridge, you know, exists. Both refuse to cross it, and the result is two separate evolutions that never meet, right? Spiritual movements are becoming increasingly detached from material reality into fantasy, you know, bypassing cult, and material movements are becoming increasingly detached from spiritual meaning into nihilism, abstraction, dystopia, and neither side wins, right? Both sides die. And, you know, going back to the tech bros building dystopia while meditating, while the tech bros and girls and non-binaries people, you know, the Silicon Valley, billion-dollar companies founded by people with meditation practices, ayahuasca journeys, you know, and spiritual teachers, and they're building surveillance capitalism, attention extraction, you know, because a lot of CEOs of these companies with children don't allow their children to use the social media that they use to extract attention from other people's children, right? With algorithm manipulation, dopamine hijacking, and social fabric destruction, and, you know, erosion of democracy, because, you know, controlling what people see on social media, especially when it's like election times across the world, right? Which creates distortion in reality. How? Well, because their spirituality never integrated with their material work. They basically say, how can I make myself more likable? You know, see what people like in the world and try to appeal to people's likes, and, you know, try to build this picture of them being ethical when they're not. You know, they meditate in the morning, which is Neptune, Pisces, mysticism energy. They build extractive, taking all and giving back nothing, technology in the afternoon, which is Uranus, Taurus, innovation energy, serving Pluto in Capricorns, you know, limiting of power. The two never connected. As I said, we're compartmentalizing mind, body and soul rather than uniting, and this magic triangle wants us to unite. You know, they can think consciousness work makes them ethical, you know, by doing the spiritual work. Meditating means you're spiritual. Now, these are the spiritual practices using tarot, meditating, ayahuasca, you know, these are ways to spirituality. They are not spirituality themselves, right? You know, it makes them spiritual bypass psychopaths, right? More dangerous than unconscious psychopaths because they believe they're enlightened. That's the triangle without integration. And material revolution, you know, Uranus, Pluto energy, is happening through people engaged in spiritual practice, Neptune, who have never activated the set styles connecting them. Innovation, escaping spirit, vision, never landing, dystopia with good vibes, right? So mystics preach compassion while capitalism crushes it, the inverse, you know. Spiritual teachers, wellness influencers, consciousness leaders preaching love, oneness and compassion, and we've seen a lot of it, and then we go beyond the filters but behind the doors, right? And we see that it's just, they're just saying things to sell things that don't actually mean these things, right? You know, saying all these things while living in and promoting economic systems built on exportation, you know, such as your yoga studio gentrifying the neighborhood, your meditation app selling subscription fees to peoples whose anxiety stems from economic systems it never questions, right? Your plant medicine retreat, extractive, taking all and giving nothing back, tourism destroying indigenous land with Airbnbs and all that, while appropriating indigenous practices, ayahuasca ceremonies, authentic in the Amazon, but never giving back to the local communities. You're just exploiting, indigenous traditions, and your consciousness brand manufactured by underpaid workers in the global south or anywhere. The spiritual language, Neptune energy, right, never touches material reality, which is Uranus Pluto energy. It's compassion as performance, oneness as an aesthetic, saying things such as we are all connected, while your lifestyle requires massive disconnection from the consequences of your consumption, the things you buy, the things you watch and view, and the actions you do, right? And this is Neptune set star Uranus and Neptune set star Pluto energy, completely unactivated, not being used. You're just sleepwalking into trying laziness, not using it, using spiritual vision, floating in the clouds, and the material revolution is happening without spiritual guidance or fake spiritual guidance, performing spirituality, saying that participating in ice baths, if you want, meditation, yoga, tai chi, whatever, means that you're spiritual. No, it doesn't. Your actions, your values, what you do in your day-to-day life is what makes you spiritual or not, right? And people claiming enlightenment while contributing to the problem which we are seeing, right, with the meditating CEOs. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean, and it's really hard because sometimes they say the lesser of two evils, and sometimes it can be hard to be ethical. But name one standout CEO who is totally against and is totally ethical. If you go through their books into their mass millions and billions, you will see that there's lots of unethical practices, including underpaying their workers, right, while they hoard millions. And this is not hate or anything, and this is how seeing how we need to bring equality into our world, and how we can do that, starting with our individual, taking accountability to look after our psychological, emotional, spiritual, financial, physical health, right? And trying to avoid, the downfalls of this magic triangle. So in terms of the collective shadow, the triangle that can be twisted into weapons. When the triangle activates at a collective scale without consciousness, every gift becomes a weapon. So disclosure reveals nothing. Neptune, Pluto, secrets exposed, hidden structures revealed, truth brought to light, sounds liberated, except, we're in a post-truth era. Information abundance has created information meaningless. We don't believe it's true anymore, even if we see it. Everything has been disclosed, such as, UFO files, government corruption, CIA records, corporate crimes, celebrity scandals, and nobody knows what's real because the truth has collapsed. So disclosure, showing people the truth, just becomes more noise, more conspiracy, more division, right? So the truth gets buried under a tsunami of information, and especially misinformation, and the triangle's gift is revelation, the truth serving transformation. But this becomes, revolution, the truth serving and giving confusion. Revolutions can be co-opted by the same power structures, by them saying we're ethical now, and people, giving people a shallow display of, change where there's no real revolution, no real change, right? But we have to remember, power doesn't disappear, it adapts. Every revolution gets co-opted. For example, social movements, which is Uranus revolutionary energy, getting channeled into non-profit industrial complex. Same power structure, different branding. Remember Black Lives Matters, everybody changing their, black squares, and corporates becoming more, hiring more people of colour and stuff like that, and becoming corporate diversity trainings, which led to power corruption, putting on the faith of solidarity for a while, and knowing that a lot of the time we've got a short memory, so then just forgetting about their ethical practices and reverting back to type, and that no real change, the surface change, riding the wave while people forget about, the past, the George Floyd incident that triggered Black Lives Matters, and then the movements that counteracted it and all of that. The Me Too movement, which was revolutionary, becoming HR compliance, power adaptation, climate justice, becoming revolutionary. It's becoming carbon credits, power innovation. So, instead of really reducing, their footprint, they're just ticking boxes, still doing some unethical, destroying the environment with one hand while, doing some things that are a bit ethical than the other. Real sustainability, real climate, looking after the environment is, becoming as ethical across the board, changing your practices, which of course is going to lead to, less profits rather than just box ticking, right? So the revolutionary energy was real, the transformation happened, but power structures absorbed the revolution, rebranded extraction as progress, and nothing fundamental changed, right? And that's Uranus trine Pluto energy without consciousness, change so smooth, power concentrates while claiming it's liberating and, caring for the environment and the people, right? Green technology funded by the extraction economy, and the most perfect example is clean energy, which is Uranus and Taurus innovation, right? Replacing fossil fuels, which is ruled by Pluto, the old structure, old power. It looks like transformation, right? We're going clean and green, right? But it's financed by the same banks that funded fossil fuels and still, fund them, manufactured using the same extraction, owned by the same billionaires, serving the same growth at an all-cost model, Electric cars are being powered by lithium batteries, which is the mining for the lithium destroys ecosystems, animals, people, local cultures. Solar panels, toxic production, wind turbines, as I said, killing birds, corporate consolidation. All of it is funded by, transitioning fossil profits to green investments, or in other terms, green profits. And, ultimately, material innovation may be transforming power structures, but it's serving the same death systems under new aesthetics, right? And, we have spiritual movements led by narcissists, with Neptune at the midpoint, the apex, right? We have people, if you use this energy without integrity, charismatic leaders use spiritual language to consolidate power, guru culture taken to a collective scale, and the triangle makes it material, and those movements build, what they build compounds, and it creates parallel economies, established hierarchical structures, all guided by, divine vision, right? And on the surface, revolutionary spiritual community, but in reality, authoritarian cult with innovative material systems, wanting to control people as well. For a lot of people go into these spiritual movements / cults, and they have to give up their homes, their jobs, the control of their finances over to the leader and stuff, right? And, the energy of Neptune gave them the language, Pluto gave them the power, and the absence of judgment, discernment, turns freedom seeking, liberation into captivity, another prison that's often worse than the prison that the person's trying to leave, right? So if you think about the Handmaid's Tale for a little bit, right, where religious ideology weaponizes revolutionary change to transform power structures that serve domination and patriarchy in the Handmaid's Tale, right, rather than liberation. So in the triangle is completely activated, completely corrupted, every gift twisted into a weapon. Material spiritual integration creates a dystopia rather than regeneration, right? So, you know, in the soul we see what happens when vision serves death instead of life, right? When material innovation builds control instead of freedom and personal accountability and self-virginity, right? When structure transformation consolidates limits power, concentrates power instead of distributing it to the many. That's the wound. No redemption in this section. The triangle can do this, will do this for millions of people. If they don't activate the energy consciously, will fall more and more and more, because the ease of harmonious aspects make corruption smooth, seductive, invisible. And your job is, during this magic triangle over the next 3 years, don't be one of them. Don't be one of the people that gets sucked in. Critical think, watch things outside of your algorithm, right? Take time to look after your psychological, emotional, spiritual needs. Learn to forgive yourself for the things that you think that you're unforgivable for, so you can move forward. We all make mistakes, and this is not to limit, you know, the things that you may have done that may have been wrong, but it's to, you know, to free ourselves from the mental prisons that we keep ourselves trapped in through our physical and psychological and emotional trauma. And remember, so the best that we can do, going back to, you know, my Cosmic Storm video of July 2026, it's a good video, you know, with the tyrant energy, Jupiter, right, square. It's not about, you know, healing the wounds. It's about learning to live with the wounds while we still make progress in our day-to-day life, right? So, as I said, you know, we have Uranus sextile Neptune, which is part of the magic triangle, and this is the bridge between innovation and vision. So it's 60 degrees of separation. We have to activate this energy. It's not automatic. The door is open. As I said, you have to knock, right? This is the structural truth of all sextiles, you know, in terms of having to use the energy. And it matters here because the gap between Uranus in Taurus and Neptune in Pisces is the gap most people alive today have spent their whole lives not crossing. You know, material innovation on one side, spiritual vision on the other side, but the sextile says the bridge is available. The crossing requires you to choose it, you know, and for as that passes across the years, each surviving at different sabring degrees, each asking the same question from a slightly different angle, right? Which is, you know, can you bring your spiritual identity and needs and your material needs and identity together, right? So Uranus' sextile to Neptune is asking, are you looking after yourself, and are you doing a deep reflection so you can come into the awareness of your actual physical, spiritual and emotional, psychological and financial needs? Are you walking a specific practice with sustained commitment? Are you willing to commit yourself to what you're trying to build, and is what you're trying to build genuine, or are you just performing, right? Are you just performing change, performing a life that you have been told to live, right? And as Uranus is, you know, goes into sextile during the magic triangle, it's asking you to, you know, think about, you know, what you may have started, especially in 2026 when Uranus goes retrograde. Think about what you may have thought about changing in 2025. Have you started changing those things? You know, review your daily practices. Are your day-to-day practices, such of the things you do, the people you're around, helping you achieve your goals? The shadow of this energy is, as I said, standing at the door without knocking, spiritual content, consuming it, you know, feeling, you know, inspired, but you don't change anything on the material level in your day-to-day life, right? And because the sextile's passivity is academic, right? Epidemic, that's the word. People learning about transformation instead of transforming, and we can get caught in that loop, right? You know, learning about the mechanics of this and that rather than actually practicing. So, you know, the gap between reading about the bridge and walking across the bridge is the only gap that matters. So the gift of this energy is the mystic, the person who builds, not the mystic who transcends and reports back, the builder who is also a mystic, right? So boots on the ground spirituality, making material choices that are continuously informed by and informing your spiritual vision. And by doing this, you complete the bridge, right? Allowing your higher ideals, your spirituality to be, land in practical matter, and to, sort of like not bypassed as well, not escaping practicality, but, asking yourself, what do I actually want to change? What does the divine being means to me? And remember that any religion, any spiritual belief you put yourself in should be helping you to have a one-to-one connection with a higher power, not making you dependent on a guru, right? So Uranus is trine to Pluto. It's the revolutionary that flows into transformation. So this is a trine, 120 degrees of separation, earth to earth, natural flow, as I said. And this is the foundational aspect of the triangle, the strongest and the most dangerous for exactly the same reason. It happens whether you're, conscious of this energy or not, and it has 5 exact passes from July 2026 to May 2028, all at different degrees, right? Asking you to ask who's been deciding whether you have access to, the resources, right? Are you actually stopping yourself from finding the level of material, psychological and emotional abundance determined by your own beliefs, or are you following teachings or national beliefs that say you have to earn as much money as you can, or you don't mean anything, you're nobody without wealth and power? Asking yourself, are you devoted to the revolution and what it produces, or to the revolution process itself? So again, going back to, are you really transforming, or are you just reading about transforming, right? So bringing the changes into your daily routine, right? Meeting the needs of your structure, paying the bills, your family needs and that, and meeting the needs of your looking after your emotions, your psychological and spiritual health, and doing all that requires to look after it for you, right? And because old systems can be compressed under Pluto's pressure in this Uranus trine Pluto, right? Don't see it as destruction, see it as the soil, the new ground where Uranus's innovations, newness can take root, and you can build new habits and new structures that can help you, get to where you want to get to in life, right? So remember, because this is a trine, change can flow naturally. You can walk through it, so you have to activate this energy, reorganize your material life, your practical day-to-day life, making changes that are in line with what you want to happen, right? Allowing yourself to reach into higher consciousness while staying grounded, right? Thinking about your current routines and about what you do day to day. Who is it currently serving? Is it serving you, or a system that you don't believe in? Questioning your beliefs as well. The shadow of this energy, as I said, is revolutionary aesthetics without actually revolutionary substance changes, right? So making sure that you actually live what you say you believe. The gift of this energy is transformation that lasts, because it's rooted in genuine death rebirth cycle rather than just novelty, just keeping up with trends and algorithms, right? And you understand that you don't compost what's alive, you compost what has dead, and that means let go of what's dead, but you build, you build the new from the old poo. So you build your new life from your old life experiences, from learning your life lessons from your life so far, right? And if you do that, the compost generates genuinely new growth, but only when you stay present long enough to look after it across the seasons, right? And if we look at the TV show The Wire, which had 5 seasons showing how systems are structurally broken, not because individuals are corrupt, but because the systems themselves were built for extraction, corruption, not regeneration, right? They were used to exert power and to take power. And when they fall, what emerges, what can be reborn and born, has to be genuinely different, or it's just the same corruption in new clothes, right? And that's what Uranus trine Pluto is wanting us to do, is to really let go of the past and build systems that serve you and systems in your personal life, and systems that serve the collective in our, in our global lives, right? And Neptune set star to Pluto is vision, directing, structural transformation, right? So it has 6 passes from July 2026 to November 2028. So this is 60 degrees of separation, right? And it's asking, can the revolution serve transformation? Can your day-to-day changes serve you, right? Serve the needs of your mind, body and soul, right? Asking you, what do you need to let go of? What routines, what relationships, habits need to die so you can bring the changes that need to be in your life, right? So asking you, can you build the vision? What are your dreams? Can you build it? Can you have the world trust that's needed to leap into the unknown? Often we stay in our comfort zones because we're scared of the new, right? Can we trust in our ability to change, right? And to make changes not only in our individual life but in the collective life, right? And as we go deeper, into this energy, it helps us understand what serving life actually requires, which is, giving up the habits that take away our life and our energy from us, whether it be destructive thought processes, addictions, toxic relationships, right? And, becoming so devoted to your personal transformation in a long-term, sustained way, where that you're going to fail at changes, many times, but getting yourself back up after each fall, right? Giving yourself spiritual authority over your life and logical and all authority over your life, reclaiming your power, because we're talking about Pluto energy here, right? The shadow of Neptune set star to Pluto is vision that justifies whatever is convenient, like the Uber, Amazon. Money is just energy, as I said. Spiritual framing used to prevent material accountability, woke corporations posting values while extracting, as I said. Wellness culture selling subscription peace to people whose anxiety comes from economic systems that the wellness culture never questions, right? And the leader that claims direct access to the divine, followers surrendering their personal accountability and freedoms, right? Ideology promises salvation through submission rather than the right way of salvation by taking personal responsibility for your own life and directing your psychological, emotional and spiritual needs, right? And looking after your financial health as well as your spiritual health, right? So the gift of this energy is, calling out those who are creating systems that are really serving death and extracting energy and wealth from people, right? Naming those who don't make a real contribution to making a difference, or just pretend that they're making a difference, right? So yeah, that's the end of part 1, guys. In part 2, I'm going to give zodiac guidance for all 12 sun, moon and rising signs, and I'm going to go deeper into the Natsakras and Sabian symbology, talking more about the retrograde energy of these transits and all that good stuff. So yeah, I see you in part 2, and thanks for listening. I'm Imani, your holistic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.